URC round 6, I think it was. Interesting, for want of a better word. Interesting round. Half the game's off. Yeah, postponed is the latest story. But yeah, we'll go over the results that happened and what's the latest with these games. You guys can give us any updates that you are aware of. But yes, with that new COVID variant, which popped up in South Africa the other day, but now seems to be bloody everywhere from what I've seen on the news, which is not a heck of a lot. But I know Australia's got some and other places. So, yeah, these games were postponed, health and safety reasons. And, yeah, these teams were all kind of left scrambling to get out of South Africa with European commitments on the horizon. They didn't want to be stuck in a red-listed country. But as far as I'm aware, last time I checked, Zebre and Scarlets managed to leave South Africa, but Munster and Cardiff have had positive COVID tests, so they've got to hang around in Cape Town in their bubbles. These four teams are kind of left sitting on their hands at the moment, and there's talk that they could potentially end up playing each other again. But yeah, it's a bit of a cluster at the moment. So we will kind of wait and see what happens with that one. All I know is the games are postponed. These teams are trying to get back to Europe, as I said. And yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait and see how things pan out. They'll be trying to plan stuff on the fly, no doubt. The organisers of Super Rugby Pacific for next year will need to look out because they're going to have teams moving from Fiji and Australia, New Zealand and whatnot. So yes, it's going to be... Organising any kind of travel is tough. But then again, the Barbars match got cancelled the other day, and that one was solely based in the UK, wasn't it? So, yeah, games getting cancelled is just a thing. Let me know your thoughts, guys, on that one. The games that actually got played, I managed to see two of them. I managed to see Connacht and Ospreys. That one was on S4C, the old Welsh channel. So I watched that one in Welsh. And I watched Leinster and Ulster. That one was on RTE. The other two games I've seen the highlights. So, yeah, you guys can fill in any gaps that I leave here. But, man, it was windy and wet in Galway. Goodness gracious me. That was some pretty nasty looking weather at the weekend. But a lot of tries. Often you associate really hard conditions with low-scoring, grinding matches. But not this one. Heaps of tries. And it doesn't look good for the Ospreys, but the halftime was quite even, right? There was kind of tries both ways. I mean, Mac Hansen just seems electric. He seems to keep getting tries. He gets one. They go on through Bolton, McNulty, and then second half's Arnold, a penalty try, Blade, and Fitzgerald. So the scoreline kind of blows out at the end. Ospreys tries Luke Morgan and then Hawkins in the second half. So one try each half. But like halftime was 18-11. So kind of close enough. Like it's still very much game on at 18-11. They missed that first conversion, Connacht, when they got their first try. The conditions, as I said, pretty tough. I'm kind of keeping an eye on Cardi's goal kicking a bit more because people have told me that may be the kind of key missing ingredient for him that keeps him out of kind of the Ireland side at times. So this is not the day to really be worrying too much about his goal kicking just because how bad the conditions were. But yeah, scrum penalty to Connacht. They seem to be turning the screws a bit. They managed to get another try through Bolton. Despite the weather, the hands seemed pretty good. Surprisingly, Ospreys were kind of their own worst enemies at times. They kicked a real long one dead. I've heard that the ground at Connacht, one part kind of goes down. I'm not sure if that was that or if he just kind of put too much on it. But yeah, it kind of worked in the end because they managed to get a try from like the resulting restart with some loose ball and they hacked it through. So Luke Morgan went over for one. So that made it 13-8. Back and forth tries though, 18-8, and then Mac Hansen just seemed to be everywhere. Like I think Tyone at one point was charging at the line, and then the next minute Mac Hansen on his defensive line just comes up with the ball somehow, and he's booting the ball down the field. So yeah, the guy just seems, as I said, to be everywhere. Yeah, scrum penalty to Ospreys before halftime, but it finishes with both sides kind of mauls holding out. It's 18-11 halftime, so as I mentioned, kind of close enough. And it continues that way a wee bit. I mean, Sammy Arnold proved himself pretty hard to bloody bring down. He's a bit of a unit of a man. 25-11, it was starting to look pretty hairy. But Ospreys at that point weren't chasing the threes, which is fair enough. You're that far behind, you got to go for the tries, and they got one. Reece Webb had a little nice kind of snipe, which led to Hawkins' try off the back of a scrum. And then I think it was Jack Morgan, right? There's two Morgans in that team. Put a try-saving tackle in the corner, but at least to the penalty on 59. So that was the try. I was starting to write when I first saw it, that saved the game, because I genuinely didn't know the result when I was watching this one. That saved the game, but as soon as I saw it was a seatbelt, I was like, that's probably going to be a problem. Sure enough, it's a penalty try and it's a yellow card, so that's when I wrote the note. Game over, 32-18. Connacht kept scoring though. I mean, the Ospreys' defence held pretty resolutely for a while, but it had to break eventually. They scored another one to make it 39-18, and then one kind of at the death. The crazy offloads just continued, so 46-18. There's a bit of a hiding, and the final act of the game was Ospreys getting the line out stolen, so it just kind of wasn't their day. But they did give a decent account of themselves at times, I felt. But, man, it was, I know, a tough one when a team can still offload like that against you when they've got such kind of horrible rain to deal with. But there you go. Run meters, 671 to 210, so it's all Connacht. More possession, more territory, especially second half. Like, territory over the game is 65-35, but it's that second half is 80-20 to Connacht. So it was just all them. Clean breaks 9-1. Hansen finishes with 100 plus run meters, beats 3 defenders. Jared Butler has 13 from 13 tackles. Jack Morgan beats 4 defenders and has 20 out of 20 tackles. But yeah, just not their day, man. Connacht look really good. 3 from 3 is their record though, so dead even, and they're in 6th. Ospreys are 4 wins, 2 losses. They are in 5th. So it's an interesting resumption to the season for both those sides. Remember, a lot of the international guys were still kind of out for this week. A few were back, but not all. Second one, Benetton, Glasgow. Didn't see this one, but it went right down to the death. I watched the highlights. Started with a real hiss and a roar with Rhino Smith pretty much scoring straight after Glasgow exited, and he just caught it and ran it straight back at them. So cracking start, even if they missed the conversion. Better weather as well. But man, Dempsey's having a pretty good run in Glasgow colours, isn't he? He's a real good signing. I mean, he's always been a good player, but he's just hit the ground running. So, yeah, Glasgow went in front 8-5. Both sides loved a wee more. Benetton got one. They got a try through your man Pettinelli. And then Glasgow hit one back with Daj. So all the try scoring done in the first half. Seemingly not a lot going on in the second half. Benetton do get a yellow card, during which Glasgow are only able to get 3 points. So they kicked that penalty to make it 18 points for them. But that's the last of their scoring. That was kind of, I don't know, early-ish on. And then, Benetton kick one on 63 and get one right at the death, which they have kind of nerves of steel and slaughter over. So 19-18 pressure kick at the end. The stats are pretty low in this game. Like, run meters 139 to 287 is low. What was Connacht in the driving rain? Was like Connacht had 671 on their own. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the deal was with this game. Maybe just the defense. Both sides tackled in the 90s percent-wise, which is huge. Penalty count's not too high, 10-12. Clean breaks, though, 2-1 is dramatically low. Glasgow more possession, Glasgow more territory. Benetton had to make more tackles. But, yeah, 2 tries each. Good win for Benetton. Ratuva is the top run meter guy for Benetton with 22 run meters. That's one of the lowest times I've seen 22 be the highest for a team in a long time, but did beat 3 defenders. Your man Pettinelli had 14 from 16 tackles, so good shift. Rufus McLean, a bit more dangerous. Was he at fault for the first try, though? I feel like he was. Maybe part of it. 74 run meters, a clean break and 2 defenders beaten. 9 from 9 tackles for Rory Daj. Despite the fact that that's weird that both the top tacklers were also try scorers in a game which was kind of low on the old try scoring. So there you go. Benetton are 3-3, they're 8th. Glasgow 3-3, they are 7th. So neither side, along with Connacht, really able to get over that they're even at the moment. They're all kind of sitting there at evens. But yeah, we'll have to see how the season plays out. The next one, Dragons in Edinburgh. Also watched the highlights. Good day for the Argentinian guys for Edinburgh, you'd have to say. Another cracking start as well. Boffelli got on the scoreboard. Bit of an ugly kick and regather, but he still managed it. 7-0. Mojano got one after a good period of pressure, 12-0. But then when it looked like Dragons were seemingly under the pump, they managed to score a couple of tries of their own. Pretty nice ones. Good hands. I mean, there was for the first one for Davis, was it Seb Davis? Sam Davis? Sam Davis. Seb Davis is the lock. Loose forward. Offload from the deck, like proper glorious kind of stuff to be seeing. 12 points to 7 with that try, and then Holmes' one tied it up, and then with the conversion put Dragons in front. 14 points to 12. Mojano got another one though from loose ball to make it 17-14 at half time. Second half again settles down a wee bit. Edinburgh kind of happy to tick the scoreboard over, a couple of penalties, and then bonus point try right at the depth to Hoyland kind of blows the score out. But first half was pretty tight seemingly. Second half pretty much goes all Edinburgh's way with no points for the Dragons guys. So they'll be pretty disappointed with that second half shift. But for Edinburgh, they are up into third, 4 wins, a draw and a loss, whereas the Dragons are 1-5, which is looking a bit ugly, to be fair. The last game, goodness me, Leinster and Ulster. Again, without a fair few internationals, you'd have to say. I mean, Tyrick Furlong was back and Henshaw was back. There was no Henderson for Ulster, but yeah, Ulster were ruthless. Now, they didn't quite often get to finish off their chances, but they created a ton. But you got to give credit, I guess, to Leinster's defence for allowing still kind of only 2 tries, despite being under a heap of pressure, especially at the start of the game. Like, Ulster just kept opting for a touch. They couldn't quite crack the Leinster defence. Eventually they went for a 3 and they missed it. But they did manage to get a try through Jones. I think it was Hume that set that one up from memory. To make it 7-0. Sad to see Dan Levy leave the field, I think with an HIA. One of the Ulster guys had to leave as well, so that's kind of always unfortunate. But Dan Levy is just one of those guys who's got that injury history that when you see him leave, it's kind of extra heartbreaking. But Ulster I thought guilty of missing a few chances, but then Leinster as well, when they went on attack towards the latter periods of the first half, were kind of held out by Ulster's defence as well. So not much going on for the offensive side of things in the first half. Defence kind of very much through. They're 7-0 half time. Pretty low scoring. Big collision in the second half between McCloskey and Ross Byrne. McCloskey's a big man. Sometimes I forget how big he is, but he's a very large human. Yeah, I mean, Byrne was kind of bracing, and then, McCloskey's just so much bigger than him, isn't he? But, Cooney, third time lucky, managed to nail a penalty to make it 10-0, but that seemed to be a wee wake-up call because only a few minutes later, Henshaw got his one straight back in after not having that many kind of clear-cut chances and Ulster having a fair few. Leinster got on the board, so 7-10. Henshaw seemed to be kind of everywhere in attack and defence. I think Ray and Timoney as well, kind of ever present at the breakdown, which is pretty pleasing to see from an Ulster point of view. Will Connors, when he came back on, I think he's been injured out for a while, right? He made an immediate impact, which was also pleasing to see. Leinster tied it up on like 64 minutes, 10 points apiece. But that was their last kind of try scoring. And interestingly, seemingly as they were kind of coming into the game, they didn't score any more points, Leinster. Doak came on and nailed a real clutch, nerves of steel of his own kind of penalty. Not an easy one to put Ulster back in front. And then Hume got the intercept one at the death to pick up the win. So I think they said only their second win at the RDS and the first one in a long time. So, good stuff from Ulster. Opens up the competition just a little bit because Leinster, that's their first points dropped in terms of a loss. But possession and territory, Ulster finishes with 53% possession and 54% territory. But first half, they had 69% territory and still not a huge lead to show for it, just the 7 points. Turnovers considered 11-6, so Leinster are a bit guilty there. Tackling percentage, both sides pretty high, 89 and 90. Both sides made pretty much the same amount of tackles, 179, 180. Maloney made 18 out of 18. Penny made 18. Oh, Maloney I think was 18 out of 20. Penny was 18 out of 18. Yeah, for the Ulster guys, Timony made like 16. Hugh made 63 run meters in clean break, but that would have been the intercept of death for a few of them. Wasn't really an easy day to clock up the run meters. And also the ref had a pretty nice one-liner where he said, kind of, guys, if you want to watch the replay on the screen, go home and watch it on the telly, which at some point will certainly appear in a YouTube highlights reel about refs telling off players at some point soon, I am quite sure. So yeah, Leinster are 5-1, Ulster are 5-1, so first and second. Interesting times. Now, it is going to be interesting next week because these teams aren't going to play. They've already kind of postponed next week's games as well. So yeah, Connacht is going to be taking on Leinster. Ulster's going to be taking on the Ospreys, Dragons in Glasgow, and then Benetton in Edinburgh. So yeah, it's only going to be half the games again. They're going to have to sort something out. Like I mentioned, there may be some kind of emergency plan enacted where these guys have to end up playing each other, but that bird is just going nuts. There's a cat out there, and the birds are signaling the alarm because there's a pussycat on the prowl. Yeah, these guys, fans and I think clubs are feeling especially kind of frustrated. But the officials do the health and safety calls. That's, I'm sure, the call they get from medical advisors. So it just kind of is what it is at the moment. And as I said, like other competitions where there's travel involved, they're just going to have to be very much aware. But as we saw with the Barbars game, sometimes it's not even the travel. It's just the cases. So yeah, it's not just the rugby. I've been following a bit of the ice hockey, and the team I follow has had their games postponed as well. That's in the States, so totally different continent. Same stuff just happening all over the world. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts for the games, especially the 4 games that got played, but also your thoughts on what's happening with these guys. We'll see what happens with Munster and Cardiff, for how long they have to hang about in South Africa if they're able to get back to Europe, how the European fixtures are going to be all affected. But yeah, cheers guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.